Imagine an empire on the brink of collapse, torn apart by rebellion and stuck in the past. Then a new leader rises, a man who will tear down the old world to build a new one. This is the story of Sultan Mahmud II, the 30th ruler of the Ottoman Empire, and one of the most radical reformers in its long history. When Mahmud II came to the throne in 1808, he inherited a disaster. The empire was in chaos, the military was weak, powerful local lords defied the central government, and the previous sultan had just been violently overthrown. It seemed like the once mighty Ottoman Empire was breathing its last. But Mahmud II had a different vision. He knew that to survive, the empire had to change, and he was willing to do whatever it took. At the heart of the empire's problems was a group that had once been its greatest strength, the Janissaries. These elite soldiers were the backbone of the Ottoman army for centuries, but by Mahmud's time, they had become a corrupt and rebellious force, a state within a state. They were more interested in protecting their own privileges than defending the empire. Whenever a sultan tried to modernize the army or introduce reforms, the Janissaries would rise up, overthrowing and even killing anyone who dared to challenge their power. They were the biggest obstacle to progress. Mahmud II knew he had to deal with them, but he was patient. He spent years carefully consolidating his power, building up loyal forces, and waiting for the right moment. That moment came in 1826, when the Janissaries predictably rebelled against his plans to create a new, modern army. Mahmud was ready. He unfurled the sacred banner of the Prophet Muhammad, calling on the people of Constantinople and his loyal troops to fight against the rebels. What followed was a brutal and decisive confrontation. The Janissary barracks were bombarded with artillery, and thousands were killed in the fighting or executed afterward. This event became known as the Auspicious Incident. In one swift, bloody stroke, Mahmud II had eliminated the single greatest threat to his authority and the future of the empire. The Janissary Corps, a force that had shaped Ottoman history for over 450 years, was gone forever. With the Janissaries out of the way, the path to reform was finally clear. And Mahmud didn't waste a moment. It was like a dam had broken. He unleashed a flood of changes that would transform every aspect of Ottoman society. First, the military. He disbanded the old-fashioned armies and created a new one, trained and equipped in the European style. This new force would be loyal directly to the Sultan, not to their own commanders or traditions. Next, he turned to the government itself. The old, confusing web of court officials and traditional offices was dismantled. In its place, he created a modern bureaucracy with ministries, just like the governments in Europe. He established a Ministry of Foreign Affairs, a Ministry of the Interior, and others, creating a cabinet-style system to run the state more efficiently. He also tackled the power of the provincial notables, the powerful local families known as the Ayan, who had been ruling their own regions like personal kingdoms. Mahmud II worked systematically to break their power, centralizing control back in the capital, Constantinople. This wasn't just about political power. It was about creating a unified, modern state where the Sultan's authority was absolute. His reforms even reached into the everyday lives of his officials. He famously ordered all government employees to abandon their traditional turbans and robes in favor of Western-style trousers, coats, and a new type of headwear, the fez. This wasn't just a fashion statement. It was a powerful symbol that the old ways were over, and a new, modern identity was being forged. Education was another key area of reform. Mahmud understood that a modern state needed modern minds. He founded new schools, including military and medical academies, designed to train a new generation of officers, doctors, and civil servants who were educated in Western sciences and languages. These graduates would become the engine of the new Ottoman state. He also established the first official Ottoman newspaper, which helped spread information and his reformist ideas throughout the empire. He reformed the tax system and started the first postal service, connecting the vast empire in ways it had never been before. But Mahmud's reign wasn't a simple story of progress. It was a constant struggle. His ambitious reforms faced resistance from conservatives who saw them as a betrayal of Islamic tradition, and while he was trying to rebuild the empire from within, it was being torn apart from the outside. The Greek War of Independence, which raged from 1821 to 1829, was a devastating blow. Despite a long and brutal fight, the empire couldn't prevent Greece from breaking away and becoming an independent nation, with the help of European powers like Britain, France, and Russia. This was a major humiliation and a sign of the empire's continuing military weakness. An even greater threat came from within his own empire. Mehmed Ali Pasha, the ambitious governor of Egypt, had built his own powerful modern army and navy. He wasn't content with just ruling Egypt. He wanted more. He challenged the Sultan's authority directly, leading to two major wars. Mehmed Ali's forces crushed the Ottoman armies and advanced deep into Anatolia, threatening the very heart of the empire. At one point, Constantinople itself seemed in danger. Mahmud was forced to seek help from his traditional enemy, Russia, just to save his throne. These conflicts with Mehmed Ali were a stark reminder of how far the empire still had to go. They showed that even with the Janissaries gone, building a military that could compete with modern forces was a slow and difficult process. Despite these immense challenges, Mahmud II never wavered from his path. He pushed forward with his reforms until the very end of his life. He died in 1839 at a pivotal moment. The empire was on the verge of announcing a new, even more comprehensive set of reforms, known as the Tanzimat, or reorganization. This famous declaration, which would be issued by his son and successor, Abdul-Mejid I, was the direct continuation of Mahmud's life's work. It would formally institutionalize the modernization efforts he had started and set the course for the Ottoman Empire for the rest of the 19th century. So, how should we remember Sultan Mahmud II? He was a ruler who inherited a dying state and, through sheer force of will, gave it a new lease on life. He was a revolutionary who was not afraid to use brutal methods to achieve his goals, as the Auspicious Incident clearly shows. His reign was filled with conflict, territorial loss, and internal strife. But without him, the Ottoman Empire might have completely disintegrated in the early 19th century. He was the great destroyer of the old Ottoman order, but he was also the chief architect of a new one. He tore down institutions that had stood for centuries to lay the foundations for a modern state that could survive in a rapidly changing world. Mahmud II stands as a critical bridge between the classical Ottoman past and the modern era. His legacy is complex and controversial, but there is no doubt that he was one of the most consequential rulers in the empire's final century.